The moment my wife looked up from her phone, I knew something was off. It was the way her eyes didn't quite meet mine. The way her lips pursed with nervous calculation. She reached over to mute the TV, turned toward me on the couch, and folded her hands neatly in her lap, like a schoolteacher preparing to deliver a difficult lesson. "Jake," she said with too much calm, "I want to talk about something. Seriously." And I just knew. Something cold settled into my stomach, like ice slowly melting down my spine. I set my beer down on the coffee table and gave her my full attention. "What is it?" She inhaled like she was about to blow out birthday candles. "I think we should talk about opening the marriage." I blinked. "What? I mean," she smiled, that kind of rehearsed smile people wear when they're about to lie or pitch you on some MLM scheme. "Everyone's doing it now. Monogamy is outdated, Jake. We've been together for 11 years. This could actually save us." "Save us?" I almost laughed. "Save what exactly? The marriage where we still had decent sex? Still made each other coffee in the mornings? Still kissed goodbye at the door?" "I've been reading about it," she continued quickly, sensing my silence. "It's not about cheating. It's about freedom, exploration, trust." "Trust," I repeated, the word feeling like a rusted nail in my mouth. She nodded. "Right. We'd have rules, of course. Boundaries. We could even use an app too. If you want other men," I said quietly, interrupting her sales pitch, "then you don't want a husband. I want a divorce." She froze. The silence between us was absolute. The same couch, the same living room, the same fucking IKEA lamp in the corner, but the temperature had dropped 20 degrees. She blinked, as if what I said hadn't registered. Then she let out a soft laugh. "Wait, what? Jake, come on. Don't be dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic," I said, rising to my feet. "I'm being honest. If you've already mentally checked out of this marriage enough to want other dicks in your rotation, then what are we doing?" "Jake, I didn't do anything," she protested. "It's just a conversation." "No," I corrected. "It's a confession. You just told me the idea of being exclusive with me isn't enough for you anymore. That's all I need to know." Her eyes filled with tears then. Not sobbing, not even real crying. Just those theatrical droplets that used to work when we argued about smaller things, like vacation plans or her forgetting our anniversary that one year. I didn't flinch this time. "I'm going to sleep on the couch," I said, already walking toward the hall. "Tomorrow, I'm calling a lawyer." She followed behind me, sputtering. "Jake, stop. You're not even going to talk about this with me? You're just—" "What?" "Ending our marriage over a conversation." "You ended it," I said, turning back to her. I'm just the first one brave enough to say it out loud. That night, I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling fan, not really sleeping. My chest felt tight, my limbs heavy. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just stunned. I didn't go to work the next day. Instead, I opened my laptop and began researching divorce attorneys. The more I read, the more I realized how much I didn't want to be anywhere near Laura while pretending things were fine. I also signed up for a local dance class, bachata, of all things, because I needed something to do with my hands, with my body, something that didn't involve staring at walls or falling into the abyss of what-ifs. When I signed up, the receptionist raised an eyebrow. "You're gonna love it," she said. "Intense body connection. It'll shake off whatever funk you're in." She had no idea how badly I needed exactly that. Laura acted normal for 2 days. It was eerie. She cooked dinner, asked me about work, tried to kiss me in passing. I barely responded. I wasn't cold. I was done. On the 3rd day, I came home to find her sitting at the kitchen table with 2 glasses of wine poured, like she was trying to set the stage for a movie reconciliation. "I've been thinking," she said as I walked in. "You're right. Maybe the open thing was too much. Maybe I got caught up in some online nonsense. I don't want to lose you over a stupid idea." I sat down across from her. "Then why did you suggest it in the first place?" "I thought it would fix us." "What's broken, Laura?" She didn't answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. She was bored. Not angry. Not hurt. Just bored of being with me, the man she once promised forever to. And in her boredom, she decided to inject sexual chaos into our marriage as a solution. She wasn't sorry for wanting it. She was sorry that I reacted the way I did. "I still want a divorce," I said gently but firmly. That broke something in her. The glass of wine trembled in her hand. "Jake, come on. We can't throw everything away over this. We're just in a rough patch. I'll go to therapy. We can go to therapy." "You're not listening," I said. You said you wanted other men. That's not a patch. That's a crater. I didn't sleep with anyone. You wanted to, I cut in. You just didn't have the courage to go through with it yet. And you thought if I said yes, you could have what you wanted without guilt. I stood up and walked to the hallway. I'll sleep on the couch again tonight, I said. I'm moving into a short-term rental next week. She didn't follow me this time. 3 days later, I stood in a mirrored dance studio, surrounded by strangers. The instructor clapped her hands and called for us to line up. We started with basic steps, forward, back, side to side. Then she made us pair up. And that's when I saw her. Isabella Cruz. Her eyes met mine like a dare. Her hand was warm when she took mine, and her hips swayed like music lived in her bones. You look like you need this more than anyone, she said with a teasing smile. I opened my mouth to reply, but the music started, and suddenly, I was moving with a stranger in my arms. And for the first time since Laura shattered our life, I felt something flicker in my chest. Something alive. The thing about dancing, real dancing, is that it forces you to be present in your body when all you want is to disappear. And that was me that night. Still married, technically. Still trying not to scream in grocery stores. Still wondering how Laura could look me in the eye after what she said, like she hadn't just asked to shatter everything between us and call it love. I didn't even want to be there. Bachata? I couldn't even pronounce it right until the receptionist corrected me with a laugh and an accent I didn't dare try to mimic. But there I was, standing in a studio with hardwood floors and mirrored walls that showed me every uncomfortable inch of myself. My too tense shoulders. My stiff stance. My face locked in a frown like it had forgotten how to smile. That's when I saw her. She didn't enter the room. She arrived. You know what I mean? Like she had gravity. Like she pulled your attention without even trying. Hair dark and long, tied back in a high ponytail. A red top that clung like a second skin and leggings that hugged her curves in a way that felt deliberate. Not slutty, just powerful. Partner up, the instructor called. I looked around, hesitant. Every pair had linked up. Except her. She walked right over to me like she'd already decided. I'm Isabella, she said, offering her hand. Her voice was low, rich, like she had smoked once, but quit before it damaged anything. Jake, I replied, surprised I hadn't stumbled over my own name. Her grip was confident. Warm. First time? She asked, eyebrow raised. That obvious? You're standing like you're about to get audited, she said with a smirk. Relax. It's just dancing. But it wasn't. Not for me. It was proximity. Contact. A stranger's body just inches from mine when I'd spent the last 2 weeks building walls around myself. The music started. Step together. Step together. Her hips moved like she didn't have bones. Mine moved like I was still stuck in traffic. Loosen up, she whispered, barely audible over the rhythm. You're not doing your taxes. You're supposed to feel this. I gave a nervous laugh, then flinched when her hand slid up my arm to reposition my shoulder. There, she said. Now I can work with you. I swallowed hard. Her fingers had left a heat trail on my skin. Isabella leaned in slightly, close enough for me to smell her perfume, something warm, spicy, floral. It was subtle but dangerous, and I wasn't used to danger. As we danced, she guided me more than the instructor did. Adjusted my frame, nudged my hip forward, pulled my hand lower on her back. At one point, she leaned in, her mouth close to my ear. Stop looking at your feet. They're not going anywhere without you. I laughed, really laughed, and it surprised both of us. There it is, she said, smiling like she'd won something. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about dancing. It was about being seen, about being touched and not flinching, about moving in rhythm with someone who wanted to move with me, not just past me. For 90 minutes, I forgot about Laura, forgot the couch I was sleeping on, forgot the dead stare across our dinner table. When the lesson ended, Isabella gave my hand a final squeeze. Not bad for a guy who looked like he'd rather be getting a colonoscopy, she teased. High praise, I said, chuckling. She started to walk away, then turned over her shoulder. Come next week. You've got good instincts. You just need to stop fighting yourself. And with that, she was gone. Back home, Laura was already in bed, her side table lamp casting a warm glow. She didn't look up when I walked in, didn't ask where I'd been, and I didn't offer. I lay down on the couch again, but sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt Isabella's hand on my shoulder, repositioning me. Her voice in my ear, her body moving in time with mine like it wasn't a big deal, like it hadn't just reset something in me. I booked a private lesson the next day. Excuse, I need to catch up. Truth, I just didn't want to be alone again. 1 week later, I walked back into the studio, nerves jangling under my skin. The room was smaller. Just me, the mirrors, and her. She wore black leggings this time. A loose white crop top that swayed when she moved. Her hair down. You came back, she said, walking toward me. Told you I would. That was before you knew how sore your hips would be. I laughed. Still sore. She tilted her head. Still married. The question didn't sting. Maybe it should have. Technically, I said. But not really. She didn't push. Let's dance, Isabella said instead. Bachata, it turns out, is all about tension. Not stiffness, but tension. That invisible thread between you and your partner. The closer you get, the stronger it pulls. But if you lean too far, you fall out of sync. We danced in silence for a few minutes, her guiding my steps. Music low in the background, just the beat and our breathing. She adjusted me again, one hand pressed lightly against my chest. My heart thumped under her fingers, and she felt it. Her eyes lifted to mine. You okay? Yeah, I said too quickly. Just, my wife asked for an open marriage. She paused, eyebrows raised, but didn't pull away. And you? I asked for a divorce. She nodded, no judgment in her expression. Good. That caught me off guard. Good. You drew a line, she said softly. Most people don't. Her voice had dropped. There was something else in it now. Respect, maybe. Understanding. I realized she'd probably been on the receiving end of betrayal too. It was written in the way she moved. Beautiful, but guarded. Warm, but only if you earned it. We danced again, closer this time. Her leg brushed mine. Our hips met for half a second longer than necessary. I tried to breathe normally. At the end of the song, she didn't pull away. Neither did I. She rested in my arms a second longer than before. Then she stepped back and smiled. Calm, composed. Like she hadn't just stirred something up in me I wasn't sure how to handle. Same time next week? She asked. I nodded. My voice didn't work. As I walked out, I felt like something inside me had been cracked open and didn't know how to close. And maybe, I didn't want it to. The studio smelled like lemon oil and sweat, like movement had history here. Isabella stood at the front of the small practice room, hands on her hips, one eyebrow raised like she'd been waiting to see whether I'd flake. Her body was casual, but there was always this coil beneath her skin, something barely restrained. Like if you pulled the right thread, she might snap into motion or melt into you, depending on the song. You're early, she said as I walked in. You're intimidating, I shot back. I figured I needed extra time to mentally prepare. She gave me a smirk that could have sliced through drywall. We'll go easy, she said, walking toward the sound system in the corner. For the first 5 minutes, soft Latin guitar filled the room, slow, sensual. The kind of music that whispered things against your skin. You remember the basics? She asked. Yeah, I said. At least my feet do. Not sure about the rest of me. She turned, hand out. Let's wake the rest of you up then. We started slow. Her hands on my body weren't sexual. Not at first. They were corrective, professional. She adjusted the angle of my wrist, pressed a palm into my lower back to straighten it, slid her thigh against mine to fix our spacing. But bodies don't always follow rules. Because at some point, it shifted. I felt the change. I'm sure she did too. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misstep. It was that our breath had started sinking. That the sway of her hips brushed against mine with more weight than necessary. That when she laughed, when I fumbled a spin and she caught me by the wrist, her fingers didn't let go right away. Better, she whispered. You're starting to feel it. I still look stiff. Yeah, she teased. But now you look sexy and stiff. I barked out a laugh, and her eyes lit up like I'd passed some unspoken test. You always use humor to hide from your body, she asked. I paused, holding her hand. You always use dancing to avoid talking? She blinked at that, surprised. Caught off guard. We were closer than we'd been before. Her chest lightly brushed mine when she stepped forward into a turn. Our hands stayed linked, fingertips grazing the skin of each other's wrists. Her voice dropped. Touch is easy. Talking's harder. I nodded. Same. The music looped into a slower song. One of those tracks that almost forces you to sway. No tricks. No footwork. Just hips. Pressure. Eyes. Breath. We danced again. This time, She moved deliberately. Her hand drifted up my chest to fix my posture, except it lingered. I felt her breath on my neck as she stepped in, our feet barely moving now. "Jake," she said, soft, like a warning or a question. "Yeah. Are you sure you're ready for this?" I knew what she meant, but I didn't know how to answer. So I told her the truth. My wife told me she wanted to open the marriage. Said it was the modern thing to do. I said no. Told her I wanted a divorce. She stilled in my arms. Not shocked. Not scandalized. Just quiet. Then she stepped back, her eyes scanning mine. "And now you're here," she said. "I didn't come looking for anything," I replied. "I just didn't want to feel dead." She nodded, slowly. "Same," she said. "I left a guy 2 years ago who made me feel like I was too much. Too intense. Too loud. I shrank for him until I didn't recognize myself. And now I dance." I smiled. "Seems to be working." We stood there, the song still playing in the background, but we weren't moving anymore. "Isabella," I said, "I don't want to be a guy who uses someone to forget." "I don't want to be someone you need to forget," she replied. We both smiled, sad and understanding. Then we danced again. This time, there was no hesitation. My hand on the small of her back felt natural. Her thigh brushing mine wasn't a mistake. And when she leaned in, lips near my ear to count out the beat, something else stirred beneath her voice. We didn't kiss. But God, it was close. At the end of the lesson, she stepped back but didn't let go of my hand right away. "You've got rhythm," she said, "even if you're still scared to use it. Maybe you're just a good teacher. Maybe you just needed someone to remind you you're allowed to feel good again." Her thumb rubbed over the back of my hand, just once. Then she let go and turned toward the speaker. "Same time next week?" she asked, like nothing had happened. "Yeah," I said, even though my chest was still thudding. "Definitely." Driving home felt like coming down off something illicit. I rolled the windows down, needing the cold air, needing something to anchor me to the moment and not spiral into guilt or fantasy. Laura was already asleep when I got back, or pretending to be. I walked past our bedroom without pausing and collapsed onto the couch again. But this time, I didn't feel hollow. I felt conflicted. Because Isabella hadn't just shown me how to move. She'd shown me something else, something dangerous. How quickly a body can remember what desire feels like. There's a strange calm that follows devastation. Like after a building collapses, there's noise, dust, screaming, and then stillness. That's how the house felt the morning I told Laura I'd spoken to a lawyer. She was in the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee like it might whisper the answers into her bloodstream. Her robe hung loose over one shoulder. Her phone lay face down next to her, like it had something to hide. I walked in, placed the documents on the counter. "What's this?" she asked, voice low. "Initial paperwork," I said. "I spoke to a lawyer. We're separating." She didn't speak right away. Instead, she stared at the manila folder like it had bitten her. "You're serious?" she whispered. "I was serious the moment you said you wanted other men." Her head jerked up. "I never had other men. I brought it up to try and fix things. I didn't cheat. You planned to. Or wanted to. That's enough for me." "You're throwing away 10 years over a hypothetical?" I laughed, a bitter sound I didn't recognize coming out of my own mouth. "It was never hypothetical to you, Laura. It was a test. And I failed because I said no." She swallowed hard, then did that thing she always did when she wanted to manipulate a moment, tilting her head, softening her voice. "I thought we could try something new. Keep things exciting." "And you never thought," I said, stepping closer, "that you might be enough just as you are? Or that I was enough?" Silence. I didn't need any more answers. That night, I didn't stay on the couch. I packed a duffel, grabbed the keys to the apartment I'd already rented under my name, and left. No ceremony. No door slam. Just quiet. My new place smelled like fresh paint and nothing else. Bare walls. A mattress on the floor. Half-unpacked boxes. I poured a drink and sat cross-legged on the mattress, staring at the ceiling, not thinking about anything, until my phone buzzed. "Isabella, lesson tomorrow still on?" I stared at the screen for a full minute before typing. "Me? Yeah, I need it." The studio was quieter than usual. Only one other couple was practicing in the far corner. Isabella was already waiting, leaning against the mirror with a water bottle tucked under her arm. Her hair was tied up in a bun, a few loose strands clinging to her neck with sweat. Tight black yoga pants. A dark red top tied at the waist. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, But she didn't smile right away. You okay? She asked. I stepped in, nodded. Filed the paperwork, I said. She exhaled slowly. How did she take it? Like someone who didn't think I'd actually do it. Most don't, she said. Most just live miserable lives out of habit. Not anymore. She looked at me for a long moment. Then, without a word, walked over to the stereo and started the music. Our dancing had changed. I didn't realize it until we were halfway through the first song. The way she pulled me into the movement, it wasn't instruction anymore. It was invitation. She pressed her chest into mine during a turn. Her hand gripped my shoulder with purpose. Our hips began to move in sync before the beat told us to. At one point, her legs slid between mine for a close step, and I caught my breath. Her eyes flicked up to mine. You good? She murmured. I don't know what I am right now. She didn't break the hold. Then feel. Don't think. And so I did. We kept moving. Bachata is built on proximity. You're meant to feel your partner. Chest to chest, breath on cheek, hands on hips, or lower. And in that small practice room, with the door shut and no one watching, there was nothing stopping us from leaning in a little too close. From breathing a little heavier. From letting our bodies say what our mouths were too afraid to. When the music faded, we didn't separate. She looked up at me. I looked down at her. No words. Just this unbearable pause that stretched until I kissed her. Soft. Searching. And she didn't pull away. Her arms wrapped around my neck, and the tension that had been simmering for weeks finally snapped into something else, something dangerous, something magnetic. She tasted like mint and heat. She kissed like someone who'd missed it for too long. Her body molded into mine, and for a few dizzy seconds, I forgot everything. But then as she broke the kiss, not in fear, not in regret, but with intention, she stepped back, eyes sharp, lips parted. I need to ask you something, she said, breathless. Okay. Was that about her? Or about you? I didn't answer immediately. I looked at her, really looked. This strong, fiery woman who never asked for anything she didn't deserve. It was about me, I said. It started as survival. But now it's something else. She nodded slowly, but I could tell she wasn't sold yet. That's fine, she said. Just don't make me a weapon. I'm not your revenge. I don't want revenge, I said quietly. I want to feel again. The space between us crackled with everything unsaid. She stepped back in, took my hand. Then let's dance. We didn't sleep together that night, but the air between us was thick with the promise of it. And for the first time in months, when I went home to my empty apartment, I didn't feel empty inside. I felt awake. It was a Wednesday when I found out. Not a dramatic day, not a stormy night or one of those cinematic, I knew something was wrong mornings. It was just a regular, boring, middle-of-the-week Wednesday when my friend Ben texted me out of nowhere. Ben, hey man, just heard some weird shit. You got time to talk? Ben wasn't the type to stir drama. He coached Little League, grilled his steaks medium well, and still used Facebook unironically. So when he sent that text, I knew something was up. Me. Shoot. Ben. You remember Laura's co-worker, Dean? I felt my pulse skip. The name wasn't unfamiliar. I remembered him. Big guy, shaved head, the kind of smile that lingered half a second too long when he talked to my wife. I'd met him once at a holiday party and immediately didn't like the way he hugged her. Too low. Too long. Me. Yeah. Why? Ben. A buddy of mine works IT at her company. Word is they've been flirting hard for months. Like, everyone saw it. Apparently, she asked to open the marriage not long after Dean's wife kicked him out. Everything stopped. I stared at the message, rereading it, feeling the blood drain from my face. That cold, familiar nausea crept back up my spine. It wasn't a conversation. It wasn't some innocent curiosity. She had someone in mind the whole time. The open marriage pitch was her way of giving herself a moral hall pass. I didn't reply. I sat there on the floor of my apartment with the silence screaming in my ears. I had already grieved the end of the marriage. But this was a knife to the ribs. Because now I knew the truth. Laura didn't just throw a grenade into our relationship out of restlessness. She lit the fuse herself. That night, I didn't go to the studio. I went to Isabella's apartment. I didn't plan it. I just got in my car, drove past the turn for the studio, kept going until I was in her neighborhood. My heart was beating like a war drum when I texted her from the street. Me. Can I see you? She responded seconds later. Isabella. Doors open. Her place smelled like cinnamon and something floral I couldn't place. She wore sweatpants and a tank top, her hair up, no makeup, and somehow still looked like fire incarnate. She didn't ask me what happened right away, just walked over, touched my cheek, and said, "Talk to me." I broke, not into tears, but into honesty. "She had someone lined up," I said, voice shaking. "The guy from work. Dean. She'd been talking to him for months. She just wanted permission." Isabella's face went still. Her hand slid from my cheek to my shoulder, anchoring me. "Of course she did," she said softly. "They always do." I was right, I muttered, sitting down on her couch. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I knew something was off, and I let her talk me into thinking I was overreacting. "Jake," she said, sitting beside me, "you weren't overreacting. You were giving her the benefit of the doubt. That's not weakness, that's love." I looked at her, really looked, and something broke open. Not like the last time. This was different. I leaned forward and kissed her again. Not hesitant, not unsure. And this time, she didn't pull away. Her fingers slid into my hair as her mouth opened to mine, warm and slow, no longer teasing or cautious. She climbed into my lap, straddling me, her thighs wrapping around my waist with a soft gasp. We didn't rush. This wasn't about revenge. This was about wanting. Her top came off first. She peeled it over her head without breaking the kiss. My hands found her waist, her back, the curve of her hips, the lines of her body that had haunted my thoughts for weeks. She pulled back, breathless. "You sure?" she asked, forehead pressed to mine. I answered by lifting her and carrying her toward the bedroom. That night, there was no guilt, just skin and sweat and soft moans in the dark. She made me feel like a man again, not someone left behind, not someone half-loved. Whole. The next morning, we lay tangled in her sheets, sunlight creeping across the hardwood floor. She traced a line down my chest with her finger, then said quietly, "You didn't just sleep with me. You chose me." I turned my head toward her. "It wasn't just sex." "No," she whispered. "It wasn't." I wanted to say more, but the lump in my throat made it impossible. So instead, I kissed her again. Later that week, I told Laura everything. Not about Isabella. She didn't deserve that intimacy. Just the part that mattered. "I know about Dean," I said. She froze. We were sitting across from each other at a local diner, neutral ground, to discuss the logistics of separating finances. Her face paled. "Who told you?" "So it's true?" She looked down at her coffee. "It wasn't physical. Not yet." "Jesus, Laura," I said. "Do you hear yourself?" "I just wanted to feel something again," she snapped. "We were so routine. And instead of talking to me, you looked for validation from some office flirt who probably says the same thing to 3 other women before lunch." Her lip curled. "You're being cruel." "No," I said, rising from the booth. "I'm being honest. Which is what you said you wanted." She didn't try to stop me as I walked out. Later that night, I lay in bed with Isabella curled into my side. I told her everything. Every detail. Not because she needed to hear it, but because I needed someone to see it. To witness my story and not flinch. She didn't try to fix me. She just held me, kissed my shoulder, and whispered, "She didn't break you. She just made room for someone better." It started with a flyer taped to the studio mirror. Bachata night, showcase performance. Couples welcome. Studio performers wanted. Apply within. Isabella pointed at it while we cooled down after a private lesson. She was sweating through her top, breath still uneven from the last sequence. She looked over at me, her eyes gleaming with something between mischief and challenge. "You ever performed?" she asked. I laughed. "You've seen me stumble over my own feet." Doesn't answer the question. "No, never. Closest I've come was a middle school talent show lip sync." She grinned. "Do you want to?" I stared at the flyer. It was a month away. Just a small local showcase the studio hosted once a season. No trophies. No judges. Just a dance floor, music, and an audience filled with family and friends. "I don't know if I'm good enough," I admitted. Isabella stepped behind me, her voice close to my ear. "That's the funny thing about dance. It's not about being good enough. It's about feeling enough." I turned to face her. "What if I mess up?" "Then we laugh," she said. "And we finish together." That word stuck with me. Together. We started training 3 nights a week. Each session bled into late evenings. Long after the studio had emptied out, long after the cleaning crew had stopped by, long after the lights were dimmed except for the one spotlight we'd flip on near the center of the floor. Isabella choreographed most of the routine. It was slow, intimate. A style of bachata called sensual, filled with tight body rolls, slow drags, and a rhythm that almost bordered on foreplay. "You okay with this?" she asked as we rehearsed the first dip. Her body arched against mine, lips inches from my mouth. I nodded. "Good," she said, letting her hand slide down my chest. "Because I want the audience to feel it when we dance, not just see it." We practiced over and over, until our sweat mixed, until our shirts clung to our bodies, until I stopped thinking of the steps and started thinking of her. By the third week, it wasn't just a dance. It was us. Every motion had become a conversation. Every shift in weight, a confession. Every touch of her hip to mine a vow. Then came the night of the showcase. The studio had been transformed. Twinkling lights strung across the ceiling. A makeshift stage created from the back half of the floor. Chairs lined up in tight rows. Wine bottles clinking. Laughter. Applause echoing from earlier performances. I sat backstage with Isabella, our fingers loosely intertwined, her head resting lightly against my shoulder. "You nervous?" she asked. "Terrified." "Good," she said with a grin. "Means you care." We watched a salsa team finish their set to thunderous applause. The MC stepped up and called our names. Up next, Jake and Isabella, performing a sensual bachata duet they've been working on for weeks. The crowd clapped. And just like that, it was time. We stepped out into the spotlight. The music started low, those familiar notes of the track we'd danced to 100 times before. But this time, it felt different. This time, people were watching. This time, my ex-wife might even see it. But as I took Isabella's hand, none of that mattered. Because she looked at me, not past me. She saw me. And when we moved, slow, precise, magnetic, the crowd disappeared. We rolled through the opening wave, my hand guiding her down her spine as she twisted in my arms. Her back arched, her leg hooking around mine in a controlled slide. She spun out, then back in, chest to chest, her breath on my cheek. Our hips swayed in perfect time. She dipped. I caught her, held her, lifted her back like it was nothing. At one point, she slid both hands up my chest, paused at my neck, and leaned in like she was about to kiss me. We didn't. Not on stage. But we didn't need to. The heat between us said enough. When the final beat hit, I dipped her again. This time, our faces inches apart, her hair brushing the floor, my heart thundering in my chest. Then we froze, and the audience exploded. Whistling, clapping, even a few cheers. We straightened, bowed, and walked off the stage hand in hand. Backstage, I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath. Isabella looked at me, flushed and glowing. "That," she said, "was electric." I laughed. "Did we pull it off?" "We destroyed it," she said. Then she pulled me into her arms and kissed me hard, right there in the wings, where the lights couldn't touch us but the music still echoed. Someone had recorded the whole thing. It was up on Instagram within the hour, first shared by the studio's page, then reshared by a student, then reshared again by someone who followed me and Laura both. By the next morning, the video had made its rounds through every shared social circle we'd ever had. Jake, the guy who used to carry grocery bags for his wife, the man who folded laundry on Saturdays and didn't complain. There he was, on stage, body to body with a gorgeous Latina dancer, holding her like she was his world. And Laura? Well, she saw it. The call came 2 days after the video went up. I didn't answer. Then came the texts. "Laura, so this is what you're doing now. A performance? Really? You think that's appropriate when we're not even divorced yet?" I didn't respond. What was there to say? She wanted freedom. She got it. What she hadn't expected, what she clearly hadn't planned for, was the cost. She assumed I'd fade into the background. Mourn in silence. Spiral, maybe. She didn't expect to see me smiling. Center stage. Hands on another woman. Fully alive. She definitely didn't expect Isabella. The clip had already gotten traction, especially among people who'd known both of us. It wasn't viral, but it had circled back to her, of course. Our old neighborhood group chat. Her coworkers. A cousin or two. Someone had messaged her directly, tagging her, probably saying something snide like, "Is this Jake? Damn." And that's what burned her. Not just that I'd moved on, but that I did it in a way she couldn't ignore. The next text came that night. "Laura, I need to talk. In person. Please." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "Me. Tomorrow." Coffee shop on 5th. 6 p.m. She was already sitting at a corner table when I arrived, her posture too straight, her eyes too wide. She dressed up, just a little. Hair curled. Light makeup. A blouse I hadn't seen since our anniversary dinner 2 years ago. Jake, she said, standing, like I might need the visual confirmation that she still looked good. Saturday, Laura. A long silence passed before she finally said, "You're sleeping with her." It wasn't a question. I said nothing. She's younger, she added quickly. Exotic. I raised an eyebrow. You seriously going to say that to me? She looked away. I saw the video, she said. So did my mom. My sister. Everyone. And I didn't expect you to. She stopped herself, choosing her next words. To move on like this. So fast. You mean confidently? I asked. She flinched. I mean, I figured you'd. I don't know, struggle a little more. Why? I asked. Because I didn't go behind your back like you did with Dean? Her face darkened. That wasn't an affair. You had him lined up, I said flatly. The only thing missing was a green light. She bit her lip. I could see the apology forming, but it wasn't real. It was the kind she wore like perfume. Superficial. Fleeting. I just thought we could experiment. Explore. You wanted other men, I said calmly now. I listened. She stared at me, eyes glassy. I never thought I'd lose you, she whispered. You didn't lose me, Laura, I said, pushing back from the table. You gave me up. You just didn't expect someone else to take the offer. I stood. She looked up at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. And maybe she didn't. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't chasing her. I wasn't waiting for her to love me better. I was done. Later that night, Isabella and I sat on the rooftop of her building. A bottle of red between us. My arm draped over her shoulder, her head resting lightly against me. She knew where I'd been. I hadn't kept it secret. And I knew she didn't love it. You okay? She asked finally. She said she didn't expect to lose me. Of course she didn't, Isabella said. Women like that never think they're replaceable. Do you think I moved on too fast? She looked up at me, her eyes serious, soft. No, she said. I think you finally started choosing you. I kissed her then, slow and deep, the city buzzing around us. And somewhere in the background, music played from another rooftop, something faint and rhythmic. Bachata. She laughed against my mouth. You hear that? I stood and offered my hand. Come on, I said. Let's give them a show. And right there, on a rooftop under string lights and stars, we danced. Not for revenge. Not for closure. Just because we could. I should have known she wasn't done. People like Laura never go down quietly. They don't rage. They don't beg. Not at first. They scheme. They recalibrate. And when that doesn't work, they test your resolve with one final act of manipulation, sweetened by nostalgia and wrapped in the language of regret. She texted me on a Monday morning, 10 days after the showcase. Laura, can we talk? Not about the paperwork. About us. I stared at the message for a long minute. My first instinct was to ignore it. But something in her tone tugged at a thread I hadn't fully cut. Maybe I needed to hear it, to close the last open door. We met at the park. Neutral ground. She wore jeans and a soft gray sweater, casual and simple, as if stripping away the version of herself that wore stilettos to PTA meetings and silk robes to bed. She smiled, hesitant but warm. Too warm. You look good, she said. I feel good. I replied, not returning the compliment. We walked a path by the lake, side by side, but not touching. Every step felt like a reminder of how far apart we'd already become. I've been thinking a lot, she said. About what I said. About the open marriage. I was wrong. Silence. She continued. I thought it would fix something that felt broken. But it wasn't broken. We just stopped talking. We didn't stop, I corrected. You stopped listening. She nodded, to her credit. I know. I didn't see how far you drifted until I saw that video. There it was. The truth behind the meeting. The video. The dance. Isabella. I saw the way you looked at her, Laura said, eyes flicking to mine. Like she's your world now. She's not a replacement, I said quietly. She's just real. Something I didn't even know I needed until everything with us shattered. Laura stopped walking. I think we could still fix it. If we both want it. I turned to face her, stunned. You're suggesting we pause the divorce? She nodded. Just pause. Go to therapy. Stop seeing her. Maybe you'll realize this is just rebound. And maybe we'll figure out we still want each other. There it was. The last card. The last power play. She wasn't here to heal. She was here to win. She didn't love me. She missed control, missed being the center of attention, missed the idea of having me, not actually being with me. You really think you can ask me to cut ties with someone who's been nothing but kind and honest with me? I asked, my voice rising. Because you suddenly realized I'm not waiting around anymore? I'm saying we've built a life, she said, trying to stay calm. That deserves a second chance. I studied her. The way her eyes glistened just enough. The quiver in her lip. All calculated. And for a moment, I felt it. Guilt. Nostalgia. The weight of years and memories. Christmas mornings. That weekend getaway to Asheville. The time I carried her inside after she twisted her ankle on the icy porch. But then I remembered the night she said, "Everyone's doing it now. It'll save our marriage. You can see other women too." And I remembered how I'd felt. Like nothing. Like I was some old car she was trading in for something sportier, but wanted to keep the keys, just in case. "I loved you, Laura," I said. "But what you wanted wasn't love. It was permission." She flinched. That hit. "Isabella told me she'd step back if I wanted to fix things with you." I added. "But I don't want to fix anything." "So that's it?" she whispered. "You're choosing her?" "No," I said. "I'm choosing me. Something I should have done years ago." She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just nodded. Slowly. Coldly. And then she walked away. That night, I told Isabella everything. We were in her kitchen, sipping wine and pretending we weren't both bracing for the fallout. She leaned against the counter, hair tied up, tank top hanging loose off one shoulder. "She wants to pause the divorce," I said, "to see if I'll come back." Isabella didn't flinch. "She say she'd change?" "She said I'd regret it." That got a small smile from her. "And do you?" I walked to her, set my glass down, and took her hand. "No," I said. "I regret waiting so long to leave." Her eyes softened, but she didn't speak. So I kept going. She said I had to choose. And I did. I'm not choosing you instead of her. I'm choosing me. My sanity. My heart. And, if that path includes you, I'm grateful. She leaned up, kissed me slow. "You're not broken, Jake," she whispered. "You were just unseen." "I see you," I whispered back. "Every inch of you." Her lips parted, but she didn't say anything else. She didn't need to. She pulled me into the bedroom, and we made love that night like nothing else existed. And for the first time in my life, maybe nothing else did. It was supposed to be a quiet night. The studio lights were low. The evening classes had cleared out, leaving only a few stragglers finishing up or chatting in the hallway. Isabella and I had the main floor to ourselves. Our usual spot, under the spotlight near the mirrors, the music low and slow, a sultry remix of Romeo Santos humming through the speakers. We were rehearsing again, not for a show, not for anything specific, really, just for us, for the rhythm we'd found, for the intimacy that had become a language all its own. She spun into me, her back to my chest, her hands reaching up to clasp behind my neck. Our hips rolled together in time, the warmth between our bodies undeniable. I could feel her heartbeat through her back, or maybe it was mine. We didn't talk during these dances. We didn't need to, until the door opened, and Laura walked in. At first, we didn't notice. But then the music stuttered. Someone had touched the stereo. I turned just in time to see Laura standing there, arms crossed, wearing a tight blouse and dark jeans, her lipstick too red, her posture too proud for someone walking into a place she didn't belong. The room dropped 10 degrees. Isabella stepped back from me, instinctively, her breath catching. "Wow," Laura said, loud enough for everyone still lingering in the hallway to hear. "So this is where you've been hiding." I stepped forward, my hands out slightly, not in fear, just trying to contain what I knew was coming. "Laura," I said calmly, "you shouldn't be here." "Oh, I think I should," she replied, voice sharp. "I figured if you were going to parade your midlife crisis all over social media, I might as well see it in person." Isabella stiffened behind me. "She's not a crisis," I said, my voice cold. "She's a choice." Laura's eyes flicked to Isabella. "You really think he'll stay with you? Once the thrill wears off? Once he gets bored again?" I felt Isabella step forward before I saw her. "Excuse me," she said, voice measured, but ice cold. "You heard me," Laura snapped. "You're a distraction. A rebound. He's still married. We're separated." I cut in. "Legally. And the papers are almost done." "Don't act like this is some love story, Jake," she spat. "You've known her for what? A few months? You think that's enough to build something real?" It's more than I had in 10 years with you, I said. That silenced her. The room was still. Isabella's hand found mine, not to hold me back, but to remind me she was there. Laura's eyes filled with something like rage, but it wasn't hot. It was cold, bitter, furious that I wasn't folding, that I wasn't begging her to understand. You're throwing everything away, she whispered. For this. I turned fully now. Not yelling, not angry, just done. No, I said. You did. The second you suggested an open marriage. The second you looked me in the eye and asked for other men like I was a piece of furniture you were tired of. People had started to gather by the door now. Quiet. Watching. Laura glanced around, realizing she was losing the room. He was married, she said to Isabella, accusing now. And you just took him? Isabella let go of my hand and stepped forward. I didn't take anything, she said. He wasn't yours to keep. You're a homewrecker. No, Isabella said, her voice steady. You wrecked your home. I just helped him find a new one. I didn't know whether to kiss her or cry. Laura stared at her for a long moment, like she wanted to claw her eyes out. Then she turned back to me. You'll regret this, she said. Maybe, I replied. But I'd rather regret walking away than spend one more day being invisible. She stood there, like she was waiting for me to chase her. I didn't. Eventually, she left. No door slam. No dramatic exit. Just the soft sound of her heels clicking down the hall. After she was gone, Isabella sank onto the floor, her back against the mirror. Her hands trembled, but her face stayed calm. I didn't want to be the villain, she whispered. You're not, I said, kneeling in front of her. You're the only thing that's felt real since this all started. She looked at me then, eyes wet but fierce. You meant what you said? I nodded. I've never meant anything more. She exhaled, and for the first time, let the tension go. I pulled her into my arms, and we sat there on the hardwood floor, surrounded by silence and the ghosts of everything that had come before. I didn't go to Isabella's that night. After the showdown at the studio, after Laura's parting words, after the adrenaline faded and silence took over, I needed to be alone. Not because I doubted what I said, but because something inside me had finally settled. I went back to my apartment. No music. No lights. I sat on the edge of the bed, kicked off my shoes, and stared at the wall. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was something deeper, quieter. Clarity. Laura had always known how to hold the power without seeming like she did. A smile here, a sigh there. A cool dismissal that said I wasn't quite enough, but not quite lacking. Always dangling just enough affection to keep me hoping. Always leaving me half-starved, just enough to beg for scraps. But now, I wasn't hungry anymore. The next morning, she showed up at my door. No text, no call, just a soft knock around 9 a.m. I opened it to find her standing there in leggings and an oversized sweater, coffee in hand like this was normal. Like we were still something. Can I come in? She asked. I hesitated, then stepped aside. She moved slowly, eyes scanning the space. The bare walls. The still unpacked boxes. The mattress on the floor. I always imagined if we split, you'd live somewhere nicer. I raised an eyebrow. Did you spend a lot of time imagining that? She ignored the jab and sat down on the edge of the bed. You really meant it, she said. What you said at the studio. I don't say things I don't mean anymore. She looked down, fidgeting with the sleeve of her sweater. I keep thinking about how fast it all happened. 1 minute we were talking about exploring. The next minute, you were gone. No, I said. I was already gone, Laura. I just hadn't walked out the door yet. She swallowed. I never actually slept with him. I nodded. But you wanted to. You laid the groundwork. You gave yourself the excuse. That's enough. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't cry. I thought I wanted excitement, she said. But I just wanted to feel something. And now, I feel hollow. I sat down in the chair across from her, keeping the distance intact. She looked at me, pleading now. Can't we just go back? Just try again? One last time? No, I said. We can't. Her face broke then, really broke. No performance. Just raw. Why her? She whispered. Why is it so easy to be what she needs? Because she never asked me to be less, I said. She never tried to break me down just to rebuild me into something more convenient. With Isabella, I don't feel like I'm chasing a moving target. She wiped a tear with the back of her hand. I didn't know what I was doing, she whispered. You still don't, I said gently. That's the problem. For a long time, we sat in silence. Then I stood, walked over to the kitchen counter, and pulled out the manila envelope. Divorce papers. Final draft. Everything signed on my end. I was going to give these to you this week, I said. Might as well be now. She took them with a shaky hand. I loved you, she said. I know, I replied. But it wasn't the kind of love I needed. She stood, walked to the door, then turned. He won't love you like I did. I smiled calm. That's the point. And then she left. Later that night, I drove to Isabella's. She opened the door in sweatpants and a loose tee, her hair up in a bun, face fresh, no makeup. Her eyes met mine with that quiet strength I'd come to crave. You okay? She asked. I am now, I said, stepping inside. I didn't kiss her. Not yet. I walked to the couch and sat down. She joined me, curling her legs under her, waiting. I signed the papers, I said. It's done. She nodded. I saw her at the studio. I figured it would come to this. I didn't come here to lean on you, I said. Not tonight. I came to tell you that what I'm doing now, it's not about her. It's not about you. It's about me. Her brow furrowed slightly, but she said nothing. For the first time in years, I continued, I'm not reacting. I'm not trying to keep something together or prove anything. I'm choosing myself. And if you're part of that, I'd be lucky. But I needed to say it out loud first. She looked at me for a long time, then reached out and touched my cheek. You're not broken, she said. You're becoming. That was it. That was the moment I knew I loved her. Not because she completed me, not because she filled some void Laura left behind, but because she let me exist. Fully. Honestly. Without flinching. We didn't sleep together that night. We didn't have to. She lay beside me on the couch, her head on my chest, her fingers tracing the lines of my arm. And I finally felt what I'd been chasing for so long. Not passion, not revenge. Peace. 6 months passed. The ink on the divorce papers dried faster than I thought it would. One signature. One stamp. One final message from the lawyer that read, You're officially divorced. Just like that, 10 years of marriage became paperwork in a file drawer somewhere downtown. Laura didn't reach out again. No texts. No voicemails. No dramatic last-minute pleas. She faded like an echo in a room I no longer stood in. I should have felt relief. Or finality. Or some sense of victory. But what I really felt was free. It was a strange kind of freedom. Not the reckless, go out and sleep with strangers kind. Not the party until dawn and am living my best life kind. Just the quiet freedom of knowing I could wake up and choose me without guilt. And most mornings, I chose dance. And I chose her. Isabella, and I never labeled it. Not right away. We didn't need to. What we had wasn't about claiming or defining. It was about showing up again and again. Every week. Every practice. Every kiss that lasted longer than it needed to. We were just us. Until the studio director, Matteo, pulled us aside one night. You two ready to teach together? He asked, watching us cool down from a run-through. Isabella glanced at me, raising an eyebrow. Teach. You've got chemistry, Matteo said. And the routine from the showcase. People are still talking about it. You've got something real. Might as well share it. I blinked, surprised. You want us to co-lead a class? Matteo grinned. You've already been doing it unofficially. Might as well get paid for it. We said yes. And that's how it started. Friday nights became our class. Intro to sensual bachata. Couples came in shy and left drenched in sweat, laughing and stumbling, holding each other closer than when they arrived. We taught them how to breathe together, how to let go of control, how to trust their partner, not just with steps, but with silence, with presence. And every time we demonstrated a move, an inside turn, a body roll, a slow dip, I felt it. That pull, that ache that was no longer pain, but something sweet. One Friday night, Matteo approached us again. We've got another showcase coming up, he said. Bigger venue. More eyes. Sponsors. Isabella lit up instantly. We're in. He turned to me. You good with that? I nodded. Let's do it. And just like that, we had something to build toward again. The weeks flew by. We choreographed a new routine, slower than the last. Less flash. More feel. It wasn't about showing off this time. It was about telling the truth of who we were now. Not broken. Not new. Just real. We practiced late into the nights, sometimes with the studio lights off, just the two of us moving to music and moonlight. We talked more too. About dreams. About fears. About the way she used to think love was a transaction, and how she now understood it was a surrender. About how I'd confused comfort for connection for too long. We didn't say, I love you yet. but we said it in other ways. She'd bring me empanadas when she knew I skipped lunch. I'd rub her calves after practice when she was too sore to stand. She'd wear my old hoodie. I'd hum her favorite bachata song while brushing her hair out of her face. It was quiet. It was enough. The night of the showcase, I expected to be nervous. But I wasn't. I stood backstage with Isabella, dressed in black slacks and a deep wine-red shirt. She wore a matching crimson dress, tight at the waist, slid up one leg, her curls loose and wild. We stood side by side as the announcer called our names. The lights hit us. The crowd leaned forward. And we danced. Slow, precise, intimate. The choreography was simple, steps we knew like the backs of our hands. But the way we looked at each other, the way we touched, that was the performance. That was what drew gasps from the crowd when we paused with her head tilted back, her lips brushing my jaw. That was what got us a standing ovation when the final beat dropped and I caught her in a soft dip, holding her like she was the only thing left in the world. Afterward, we stood in the wings, catching our breath. I turned to her, my heart pounding. "I have something to say," I whispered. She looked at me, eyes wide. "I love you," I said. "Not because you saved me, but because you saw me. And I finally see myself too." She stepped closer, touched my face, and smiled. "I love you," she said. "Not because you chose me over her, but because you chose you. And I get to be part of that." We kissed. And this time, it wasn't part of any performance. It was just us. Later that night, as we walked out into the warm air, a familiar figure stood by the far wall near the entrance. Laura. She looked different. Smaller, somehow. Her arms were crossed, her eyes locked on us. I didn't freeze. I didn't flinch. I just nodded once. She gave a tight nod back. No words, no drama. And turned, walking away into the night. Maybe she came to see what she'd lost. Maybe she just wanted closure. It didn't matter. Because I had mine. Inside the studio, the music picked up again. Another couple took the floor. The room buzzed with laughter, applause, and energy. Isabella tugged on my hand. "One more dance." I grinned. "Always." And as we stepped back into the circle, hips swaying, hearts open, I realized something. This wasn't a revenge story. It wasn't a comeback. It was a beginning. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't dancing to keep something from falling apart. I was dancing because I was finally whole.